Welcome back to Tracy and Gracie Becoming. This is episode number 32, and we're going to talk about boundaries today. I think this is such an interesting topic because I think so many people get it wrong.
Yeah, I'm excited about this one.
Yeah, there's definitely a misconception around what boundaries mean. I think people use it very flippantly.
Yeah.
So we're going to clear up some of those definitions for you. But before we do, how has this last week been for you, my darling?
It's been good. It's been busy. We kicked off our very first program of the year. It's the first time that we've ever had, or Self-Made You has ever had, another coach deliver a program outside of you. So that's super exciting. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Kim is the coach that is running this program, and yeah, it's exciting to watch her kind of pioneer it for the rest of us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she's the perfect person to, launch this.
Yeah.
It definitely marks a point in time where we can see Self-Made You kind of taking the turn towards the kind of growth that we've really desired. So I have for a long time wanted to bring on other coaches, not be the only coach. I really want to share this experience with other people. It is such a privilege to be able to impact other people's lives. And so for people who have had that as a passion or a purpose, sometimes it's a hard skill or a hard desire to implement. And so I'm proud on so many levels that I'm giving people the opportunity that exponentially we're going to be able to change more lives, as well as allow me to focus on other things. I love coaching, but in order for the company to grow, we have to really start looking at other areas. And so working with businesses is the next endeavor, and I'm really setting my sights on how do we do that? How do we make that happen? And so I can very confidently hand over a lot of the client care to the coaches that are on board. And so, Self-Made Mind and Body was the kickoff of that initiative. And on deck, we've got Dating Differently, which is your program. Super fun to see your social media.
God.
Dad and I are laying in bed one night, and all of a sudden I hear him giggling. He's got his earbuds in and he starts giggling. And that's usually my MO because I'm watching TikToks or something. So I'm assuming he's going to show me some dog video or something. And he shows me a video of you and he's recognize her. And
that's terrifying.
Yeah. And I'm like, oh my gosh. I'm because I know he wouldn't be on our page. I'm she just came up in TikTok. Is she TikTok famous?
No.
And you told me, no, it's because I'm in his contacts.
Yeah.
But nevertheless, then I got onto my TikTok and you popped right up and you're doing a fantastic job.
Yeah, this has been a terrifying week.
I bet. I've thought a lot about you, thinking how much courage it takes to put yourself out there. It really does. And there's no way to make it easy. You've just you've got to be bold. You've got to have courage. Like I've told you before, it's as long as you are convicted in what your mission is, if it is truly in your heart of hearts to help people, then putting yourself out there is worth it.
Yeah,
it's totally worth it. And we're human. We are going to have fears of judgment. That's so normal. But you can set that aside and you can be afraid and keep your eye on the ball of impacting and improving lives, helping people trust themselves through this circumstance of learning how to date differently. And that's life-changing for people.
Yeah, it's definitely challenging. I definitely have sabotaging thoughts by the hour every single day. But it's going to be worth it. I'm so excited. The thought of being able to run my own program where I get to help women every single day with their dating lives and show them how exciting and fun it can be, that's worth it to me. So, yeah.
You'll do a great job. So what else happened this week?
We went to bingo. That was my grandpa's Christmas present from us, was a night outing to bingo because he loves to play bingo. So we took him out to our local Carboni's, and Dad's the only one that won.
Yeah, we bought all the pull tabs he could possibly pull.
Yeah.
A lot of bingo was played. We had a great dinner. Yeah, they actually won. I think they won like $90 in pull tabs.
No, they won $160 in pull tabs.
Oh.
And then my grandpa loves to play pull tabs, so he just kept putting the money back in the boxes.
Yeah, until he
ran out.
Yeah, until he got back down to zero. So
yeah, that's not my game.
And
I'm
then
so
bingo,
stingy,
yeah.
I hate it.
Dad won twice on bingo too.
Yeah, yep. Yeah, he did.
I was so sure that it was Grandpa Barker's birthday. He would have turned 77. I was so sure.
That's your dad.
My dad, yep. That we were going to win on the 077, only to find out that there is no 077.
Yeah, it'd be a little hard to do that in bingo. Yeah. But there was one point where I think it was the blackout game. I was only 7 calls away from winning, and I was like, all right, Grandpa, give it to me.
Do me a solid here.
I could use the $600. Yeah. But I don't know, he must have been busy or something.
Yeah, he has other things in mind. That was my conclusion too, is that he maybe is going to help us out in other ways.
Yeah, for sure.
And then what else? So that was Tuesday. Sunday, we did a family pickleball outing.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, you sound real excited about that. Why do you?
No, it's just intense.
Playing
We
me?
thought that we were, playing you is terrifying. Yeah. No, she's actually really good. I know I'm sarcastic when we talk about it, but no, she kicks my butt every time. And that's what's so annoying about pickleball, is that you go into these places and there's people, they look like they need walkers on the outside of this, and they're just kicking my ass in pickleball.
They're pickleball sharks.
Yeah. So now I'm determined to get really good so that I can actually enjoy the game.
Which you're in lessons.
Yep, we're in lessons every
that
week.
box.
Yep. But yeah, if you're my age and you've never played pickleball, you need to go play, because
It's so fun.
it is really fun, and anybody can play it. There are levels for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
If you're just beginning, it's so easy to learn, and it's pretty easy to get good at. You just have to actually play.
Yeah, it's
and
addicting.
practice.
Don't you think? It's totally addicting.
Yeah, I'm not addicted to it like you are, but it is, I definitely can see why people get so wound up over the game, because
I'm starting my league. So I went through 3 rounds of lessons, and now I have the confidence. I'm like ripping off the Band-Aid to do a league. It's a ladder league, so I'm sure I'm going to be at the very bottom, but that's okay.
it's where everyone starts.
Yeah, that starts on Friday. I am super nervous. You got to start somewhere, so it'll be fine. But I'm excited too, because it was part of my vision for 2024, was like part of my health goals was to play 2 to 3 times a week. And so I got after it.
That.
Yeah, like it didn't take me long to get there. And I definitely notice I get my heart rate up. I close my loop on my health app.
Yeah.
I don't know. Of course, we're doing Self-Made Mind and Body, so I'm actually tracking my weight. It doesn't hurt to get out and be playing competitively.
Yeah,
but when you're
you
in
work
a
up
league,
a sweat.
Oh my
I could
gosh.
not believe how disgusting I was after
yeah,
that.
I mean, it's a completely different environment than lessons. When you're at like an open play and you're putting your paddle in they call it a paddle saddle. When you put your paddle in the saddle and what is it?
You're just being thrown in round robin, basically.
Your turn is constantly coming up. So you have to remember to take your paddle out of the saddle if you really want to take a breather. Otherwise, you are just consistently playing.
Well, you're the one that puts it in there. So
I know, but I just figured that you would get a little bit more of a rest. I was like,
there's
my gosh.
There's 6 courts, and we went with the impression that us 4 were going to get to play together.
Yeah.
You, Dad, Griff, and I. We're all going to get to play against each other the whole time. no, you don't get to do that at open play. You have to play with strangers who are really good. And
But it was really fun to watch Griffin because he is the racket sport champion of Lakeville South, at least in 2018.
yeah. Yeah.
And the kid is 6'4". His wingspan is just extraordinary. And he's a great player. So to watch him step in and play with these guys, he could play at the highest level. And it's so fun. Although you do not want to be on the opposing team because he has so much power behind his hits that it hurts.
Yeah.
It hits you. And he hit me twice. And I'm like, what the heck?
And one of the rules of the game,
mama.
One of the rules of the game is if you get hit anywhere, then that's the point for the other team.
Mm-hmm.
So really good players, which is rude, but really good players spike the ball at you and hit you with the ball. Griffin was saying that he was up against an instructor, one of the instructors that was out there playing, just going hardcore for no reason. That's not good pickleball etiquette, just so everyone knows. But this guy was
makes you wonder, what are they compensating for?
Yeah,
like,
exactly. But he was just like whipping him at Griffin, I guess. Griffin was like, hit me in my shoulder and my stomach. What was this dude's problem? But you get points by doing that. It's just not proper pickleball etiquette.
Right.
So, yeah, it's a really fun sport. And when you start out, there's going to be old people that kick your ass for like weeks on end until you get good at it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we did that. That was super fun. I'm trying to think, was there anything else from the last week?
Not that I can think of.
It's kind of been a blur, just really getting Self-Made Mind and Body off the ground.
Yeah.
And I have been up to my eyeballs in all of the loose ends that go along with these programs. You've been really busy and focused on your program and the marketing, and I've been really busy on more of the technicalities and the software. We have people that you have to track your weight, you have to learn how to take your blood, you got to track your blood and enter it into a tracker, and then I'm on the other end watching those trackers, and to even get those trackers to work is nothing short of a miracle. So
there's always a lot of moving parts for us.
So it's fun. I love that kind of stuff, but not when I have so many other things pressing. So this weekend, Dad went up north to his annual ice fishing trip. It's always over his birthday. So he usually comes back a little hungover, always regretting, I shouldn't have played that game or whatever. Yeah. I think he has
I pulled out all the tequila.
Oh my God. I could hear him last night. I heard all these bottles clinking. I'm like, what is going on?
So did I.
I'm so glad though. Get it out of here. Yeah, they have a chest. The group that he's with are the most fun people. He's known them for a majority of his life. Yeah. They have been doing this for something like, I don't even know, I think it's 30 some odd years that they've been doing this trip. And it just happens to be over his birthday. So he does become a little bit of a target with the drinking games, but...
not a target, he loves it. And Bryce and tequila are quite a special mix. So everybody has a good time when that's going on.
Yeah, so I hope he has fun, even though he didn't say goodbye to us.
Yeah. We were both on calls, and he couldn't have scurried out of here any faster. I was like,
true. I saw him go up the driveway, and I'm thinking, surely he is turning around the truck or something. There's no way he's leaving right now without saying goodbye, because he's gone for 5 days. And not to mention there's a snowstorm coming, and we're all going to starve to death. So the least he can do is say goodbye.
Yeah,
and
literally.
He did. He put BYE in a text to the family. That was it.
I didn't even see that.
Yeah. And I was like, that is so rude.
Well.
And then, so I texted back, because he had to go pick up our neighbor who's going up with him. So I texted immediately upon him saying BYE, and I said, I cannot believe you just left and did not give me a kiss goodbye, completely expecting the truck to turn around and come back.
He still hasn't responded.
No, I'm like, what in the world? Who does that? Yeah, he better be praying to his lucky stars that nothing goes awry here with the big snowstorm coming in. And
Yeah, it will, because that's how it works here. But
yeah.
we'll just take that as, Dad, you were just so excited to get on with your birthday activities, and we'll let it slide.
And we'll celebrate when you get home.
Yeah.
Maybe not as much as we would have had you said goodbye.
Yeah.
Okay, so boundaries. That is a little bit of a boundary for me. I do really appreciate knowing what people's plans are and not having things sprung or being taken off guard. It's a personal boundary, but I think that that's probably a good place to start, because boundaries are not about trying to control other people. It's really more about identifying our own emotional space, and I guess you could think of it as a property line.
Yeah.
Right?
I like this analogy.
Yeah.
I think this is the biggest misconception about boundaries, is that you have boundaries for other people, right? Or you hear people say, clearly they have no boundaries, or something like that.
Yeah.
And that is where we get hung up on the legitimate meaning of boundaries.
Yes. Boundaries are for you.
Yeah.
They are not meant to be made for other people, to inflict upon other people.
Yeah.
A lot of people will use them as
Threats. Threats.
As a threat. Yep.
Yeah.
So you have to recognize, like, how are you using it, and is it even working for you? Because if you're using it as it's probably not working very well for you.
Yeah.
You're probably trying to control a person, a circumstance. Circumstances and people are not controllable, and that just irritates the heck out of you when you think that they are, or they should be.
Yeah. So if you're looking at a boundary like a property line, right? Literally picture your white picket fence around your house, right? Or your backyard. That is not something that you have to explain to your neighbors, right? They all see the white picket fence that surrounds your backyard. It's not something that you tell them, hey, this is my white picket fence, so everything on this side is my yard and everything on that side is your yard, right? Like, that is an unspoken rule. When you have this property line that is fenced up, everybody knows their own boundaries.
Yeah. Yeah. So if you think about it in that context, that boundary is protecting your emotional space. So it's not about trying to control other people's actions to make us happy, right? We want to be the one that's in control of our emotions. I'm not abdicating responsibility for my happiness onto you, saying you have to do X in order for me to be happy.
Right. You don't go looking at your neighbor's yard and tell them to trim their hedges so that you can be happy, right? That's their yard.
Right.
Yeah.
And so if it's inside your yard and you know that trimmed hedges makes you happy, then that makes sense. Then it's something that you own.
Yep.
But if it's in their yard, it's their prerogative.
Yep.
And so boundaries are not established as consequences either, right? This is more of if you need an ad libs of it, it's like when Dad leaves without giving me a kiss goodbye, then I have a certain playbook. Then I text him and tell him, goodbye, have a great time. I wish I would have been able to give you a kiss goodbye.
Yeah.
Right? So when he does something, the boundary is on me. It's how I'm going to behave.
Yeah.
Not a consequence for him.
Or a threat.
Yes.
Like, she didn't text him and say, you better turn that car around right now.
Right.
Or I'm not going to speak to you when you come home.
Right.
Right? That would be a threat. And some people mistakenly think that that is a boundary.
Right.
When it's not.
Right. Yeah. So it's really important to distinguish between a boundary and even a simple request. So if you're wanting your spouse to help you around the house, that is a specific request, not a boundary. Okay? So it's really important to remember that this is about protecting your emotional space. They have no control over how you are thinking and feeling. This is you taking responsibility for the way you're thinking. If you recognize that your thinking is causing you to feel something you don't want to be feeling, it's your responsibility.
Right.
So the boundary is set for you. When this happens, I respond in this way. Most of the time, if you think about it as boundaries are set from a place of self-kindness and love.
Yeah.
Self being the word that we need to really spotlight.
Yeah.
Self-kindness and love. So if you are the neighbor that says, if you don't stop blowing the leaves into my yard, I'm going to call the cops, which seems a little aggressive, but that just came to mind because of the dogs barking and the neighbor who does call the cops on us. That is not probably going to make you feel any sort of emotion that resembles any sort of love, self-kindness, right?
Right.
That's got you all fired up and probably in more of a resentful, vindictive type state. Thinking about that, is this what I am declaring as my boundary? Does it make me feel like I'm doing this from love?
Right.
Okay? You can pull the other person or the circumstance completely out of it. That's what I
Right.
find so fascinating about boundaries, because that's where, of course, your brain wants to go.
Right.
It's like, but, what about them? Feeling like you need to be justified, right? Pull them out and recognize that boundaries are set for the sole purpose of your emotional protection.
Yeah.
So I have a client who, her mother-in-law would always drop by unannounced. And it made my client very uncomfortable. So client set the boundary out of love and respect. She asked her mother-in-law to call before visiting. So this sort of clarity, this sort of communication is what's going to really foster and deepen the relationship, right? By her being upfront and just speaking what it is that she would like is going to hopefully foster a much better relationship and not add to any of the resistance that might be going on the front end. So if she comes over unannounced, I'm going to ask her to please call before coming over next time.
Yeah.
And that is an action that she's taking out of, the client is taking out of self-love and love for the relationship, because she really wants to keep this relationship growing. She doesn't want it to be torn apart by resentment.
Yeah. So something to keep this, an easy way to keep this clear in your mind is it's always, if this happens, then I will do this.
Right.
Yeah. It's never, if this happens, then you will do this.
Correct.
So say her mom shows up unannounced again, right? Well, her next boundary might be, I'm not opening the door.
Right.
Right?
Which sounds harsh in this example, but it still puts the onus on her, right? And it's not a consequence. She doesn't even have to articulate this boundary. Honestly, I feel like boundaries, because they are really meant for you, the sole purpose. I personally believe that boundaries really shouldn't be declared out loud. I don't think that they need to be. I feel like when you do that, it's almost like an ultimatum. And that is not a boundary. You can keep it private.
Yeah.
My client asking her mom to call ahead of time is not enforcing or inflicting any sort of punishment. There's no statement in there. It's just
Right.
a simple request,
Right.
right? You can request something of people, of course, but without some sort of consequence attached to it. So setting boundaries can be tough. I don't think it comes natural. It sometimes does involve risking a relationship, but it can be absolutely crucial for authenticity, for strengthening, growing relationships.
Yeah, for sure. I feel like it's especially in cases where if you're a people pleaser and you have this relationship that you're always feeling like your boundaries are being violated, this is where it becomes so important for you to understand the concept of making boundaries for yourself, because ultimately this relationship will be built on resentment if you are never honoring your own boundaries for yourself. So if you have a friend who, say, always shows up late, and I'm probably that friend, so so to my friends, if we need this boundary, just let me know. But say you have this friend that always shows up late, and your boundary is that if your friend shows up late, or your boundary is I don't wait for people, right? Then maybe that boundary to you looks like if my friend is more than 5 minutes late, I'm going to leave, right? And that is something that you can tell them, right? You can just say, hey, I've been here for 5 minutes, I'm heading out, right? It doesn't need to be, if you're not here in 5 minutes, I'm leaving. That does not feel like a kind and loving boundary for yourself. But if it is an important boundary to you, that being on time, your friends are on time to the commitments you've made, then set that boundary for yourself.
Yep, and uphold it.
When you really think about it, if you were always doing this to your friend, right, you wouldn't want to make them feel like my time isn't important enough to them.
Right.
Right? So you got to get out of that narrative that you're being a mean friend by setting boundaries for yourself, because at the end of the day, you are just showing yourself and your relationship to this person all the love that it needs to grow and be a good relationship.
Right. Yeah. People who struggle with people pleasing really struggle with boundaries.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. So that's good to know. That's your area of growth. And you can start to really lean into trusting yourself. Start with the decision. What is it that you want? Why do you want it? Notice the people pleasing narratives. They're not going to like me. They're going to talk about me, right? You have to notice those. When you notice those, you're less likely to be sabotaged by those narratives because they're not even true. You know they're not true, right? They love you. They wouldn't be coming to meet you in the first place, but you have to have your own back.
Yeah.
You have to love yourself enough and be kind enough to yourself, not sit here and try to manipulate the relationships by people pleasing. You want to stand firm and be authentic and transparent and absolutely genuine in who it is, your character, of who you are. And you aren't somebody that has all day to sit and wait for somebody. That's the boundary that you have. And then of course you can have empathy for them. They maybe have no clue how to manage their time, which is quite sad because I'm sure there's been tons of consequences. There's a huge area of growth there. You can really look at navigating with your values, or really even looking at the bigger picture and keeping yourself from spinning out in all sorts of anger and unnecessary suffering by really thinking about, at the end of life, is this really going to matter?
Right.
No, it's not. But what does matter is that you had your own back and that you stood firm in who you are, and then finishing with the decision. Always taking clear, concise, immediate action. Doesn't have to be anything monumental, but actually doing what you have decided with steps 1 through 3 to do. Actually follow through. Hold your commitments to your own boundaries.
Yeah.
And again, that doesn't mean that you have to go and skyride it. This can be something that's very personal to you.
Yeah, I think another example of that is we have somebody in our lives that is very political, right? But we are very strong on not talking politics with people because that's what feels loving and safe for us, right?
Right.
But we also love this person, and it doesn't mean anything about them that they love to talk politics, right? But a boundary for me, at least, is when that person talks politics, I don't engage, right? And it's something that the people pleaser in me has had to work on, because sometimes it can feel uncomfortable when somebody's having a conversation that maybe you don't want to partake in and you don't engage. But at the end of the day, it's when I see the whole picture, I know that it would not be a productive, loving conversation that I would normally have with this person that I love. Taking something like that and really holding strong to your boundaries, worst thing that's going to happen here is that the conversation dies, right? Or the person asks why you're not engaging.
And you can be completely honest,
Exactly.
right? It opens up the door for some transparency.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that it's just really important to remember that this kind of work really comes from a place of peace, love, and self-respect, not a place of frustration and avoidance. And I think the final note to be made on this is that your boundaries can also change.
Yeah.
Right? You can make this decision just like any of the decisions that we talk about, and just like any of the decisions that we help our clients make. These are not decisions that have to be set in stone. You always have free will to change your mind,
Yeah.
right? Every day. I can't believe how many times I've said this today. I've been coaching since 7 o'clock this morning. I bet you I've said this at least a half a dozen times, but we are a different person than we were yesterday, right?
Yeah.
Our experiences, the contrast that we've had as we've sifted and sorted through our hours, have created new perspectives. So it makes perfect sense that today I am my future self of yesterday, and I might have a completely different perspective. I might have changed my mind, and that is completely your prerogative. So even when you do make a decision, or even when you do set a boundary, you do not have to hold that boundary forevermore. It's your boundary. You get to decide. Maybe there'll come a time where you're ready to talk politics, but I'm somebody that I feel like I don't talk a lot of politics either, because I don't feel like I have trustworthy sources. And it's very difficult for me to form an opinion when I don't trust the sources.
Yeah.
And so for me to have a hard and fast opinion that I want to back, I just can't find a place for that in politics. And so I'm just not going to engage in political debates when I don't feel like I'm armed and equipped with the information. And so typically, when, just FYI, if anybody else can relate to this, typically what I say is I just don't have enough information.
Yeah.
And that usually shuts people down, because how are they going to argue that? I'm not going to argue. You can talk as long as you want. I'm not going to engage in this because I literally don't have enough information.
Yeah. Yeah. And I know that's a topic that it can be really difficult for people too, because even just in families, sometimes you have very different dynamics of people who have very different views on politics, right? And so this can be an easy boundary that you set for yourself, right? Because you love your family and you don't want to get in knockdown dragouts with them over something that you don't talk about anyways, right?
Yeah. Anything else?
Yeah. Another boundary that's obvious to me right now, because all I've been working on is with dating, right? I think this could save a lot of women who really struggle with this. Say you're not getting the attention that you want from a guy you've been talking to, right? or he ghosts you. The boundary that I have with myself is if a guy ghosts me, I do not reach out again, right? And I know that this is something that can be really difficult because our brain tells us that you need to go in fight or flight mode when somebody ghosts you or rejects you or whatever, that you make it mean all of these things about you, when really 9 times out of 10, when something like this happens, when a guy ghosts you, when you get rejected, it's almost always about them and not about you. And I think that we're so quick to believe that if somebody rejects us or doesn't like us or ghosts us, that it means everything about us and what we did wrong. But it could be something as silly as your hair color, that they're just like, well, she doesn't fit my type.
Yeah, and they might not have the emotional intelligence to
Totally.
be able to draw that relationship to a close in a mature way.
Totally.
And wouldn't you rather know that now?
Yeah.
And also, just from a mother's perspective, rejection is God's
Protection.
protection.
Yeah, I 100%, my number one boundary when it comes to dating is if a guy leaves you or rejects you or ghosts you or whatever the situation is, you let it end there. And you never get to make it mean something about you. That last part is worth its weight in gold. You never get to make it mean something about you, because out of all the millions of possibilities for why this man rejected you or stopped talking to you or whatever, broke up with you, like, why do you get to make it about you? Right? That is something that I will hold strong to the rest of my life, and I wish I would have adopted this earlier. It would have saved me a lot of self-doubt and hurt or pain or whatever if I had just held this belief that you don't ever get to make somebody else's actions mean something about you.
Right. Although you wouldn't have gotten to this place of clarity and this way of conducting yourself and the mental health that you have, you wouldn't have gotten here had you not had that contrast.
Yeah.
I mean, nobody wishes for those circumstances.
Absolutely.
But you made the best of them. You've learned from them. You're now actually leveraging them. You've had those experiences. You can absolutely help other women through those kinds of experiences by helping them think differently about it, just like you're doing. So, and I think that this is a great place to end this by really showing you don't go into a date saying, if you ghost me, if you don't respond back within whatever 24 hours,
Yeah.
I'm out.
Yeah.
You don't even, there is zero ultimatums.
Right.
Right? This is a boundary for you. It's very private and it's very meaningful to you.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to even be spoken.
Right. And it will change your life if you decide to live that way.
Yeah. Just remember that it's very important that once you set them for yourself, that you actually carry through on those boundaries that you're setting, reflect on your boundary setting habits, and really consider where your areas of growth are. They can be very enlightening, and they can be very beneficial to deepen and growing genuine relationships.
Yeah, absolutely.
There you have it. So, well, thank you so much for joining us again.
Yeah, as always, if you like our show, even just a little bit, let us know by giving us a rating. It really only takes a couple seconds to just go to the top of wherever you're listening to us, go to this top of that page and hit 5 stars for us so that we can spread the word to more people.
Yeah. All right. We'll see you next week.